Imagine you're standing in a small clearing 40,000 years ago. No phones, no apps, no way to know anything about a stranger except what your own eyes and ears could tell you in the time it took to walk past them. And somehow, despite none of the tools we think we need today, people still fell in love. They still paired off. They still raised children together for years at a time. The question worth asking isn't whether ancient humans found love. They clearly did. The real question is how they did it with so much less information than we have now, and why that system actually worked better than a lot of what we're doing today. Let's start with the obvious problem. You couldn't swipe through 500 potential partners. You had, realistically, the people in your immediate band, plus whoever your tribe encountered through trade, ritual gatherings, or chance meetings with neighboring groups. Anthropologist Helen Fisher, who has spent her career studying the evolutionary roots of love, has argued that human mate choice evolved under conditions of extremely limited choice. Not because limited choice was ideal, but because it's what existed, and that scarcity forced something modern dating completely removes: depth over breadth. Here's the part that should sound strange to you. With fewer options, our ancestors couldn't afford to be picky in the way we are now. So instead, they got good at reading the partners actually in front of them. They had to. Survival depended on choosing well, because a bad partnership in a small hunter-gatherer band wasn't just emotionally costly, it was physically dangerous. If you chose someone unreliable, lazy, or violent, you and your children could starve or die. So mate selection wasn't romantic fantasy. It was in the most literal sense a survival decision. And that changes everything about how the process worked. Evolutionary psychologist David Buss, who has spent decades researching what humans look for in long-term partners across dozens of cultures, found something remarkable. The traits ancient humans likely prioritized weren't surface-level attractiveness in the way we obsess over today. They prioritized signals of competence and cooperation. Could this person hunt, gather, build shelter, defend the group? Were they kind to children? Did other members of the tribe trust them? These weren't things you could fake for very long in a small community where everyone watched everyone. There was no profile to curate. There was only reputation built slowly over months and years of being observed. This is the detail that changes the whole picture. In a tribe of maybe 30 to 150 people, you didn't meet someone and decide within an evening whether they were worth dating. You watched them. For seasons, you saw how they behaved when the hunt failed, when someone got sick, when food ran low, when a child needed comforting in the middle of the night. Courtship, if you can even call it that, was less of an event and more of an extended period of observation that the entire community participated in, whether they meant to or not. Compare that to now. Today, you can build an entire emotional narrative about someone based on 6 photos and a bio they wrote about themselves. Our ancestors had the opposite problem. They had almost too much real information and almost no ability to hide anything. If you were unreliable, the whole camp eventually knew it. If you were generous, the whole camp knew that too. Reputation was the original dating profile, except it was written by dozens of witnesses instead of by the person trying to look good. Here's where it gets genuinely fascinating. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer societies, like the Hadza of Tanzania, have found patterns that likely echo deep into our evolutionary past. Anthropologist Frank Marlowe, who spent years living among and studying the Hadza, documented that women in these societies have real influence over mate choice, often more than people assume, and that both partners weigh practical compatibility heavily. Can this person work alongside me? Can we actually survive together? Romantic chemistry mattered, but it didn't operate alone. It operated inside a framework of practical partnership that modern dating culture has almost entirely forgotten how to prioritize. And this connects to something deeper about how pair bonding itself evolved. Helen Fisher's research suggests humans developed long-term attachment, the cocktail of oxytocin and vasopressin that creates feelings of closeness and loyalty, specifically because raising human children required more than one person. Human infants are helpless for years, far longer than almost any other species. A mother alone in a harsh ancient environment had a much harder time keeping a child alive than a mother with a committed partner contributing food, protection, and care. So pair bonding wasn't just romantic, it was infrastructure. Love, in the chemical sense your brain still produces today, may have evolved less as poetry and more as a parenting strategy that happened to feel incredible. This reframes something people get wrong constantly. We tend to imagine ancient love as primitive and ours as sophisticated. But in a lot of ways, the ancient system solved a problem we still haven't solved. They built relationships on observed character. We build them on curated impressions. They had communities that reinforced commitment because everyone's survival was interconnected. We have algorithms that reward novelty because attention, not bonding, is the business model. There's another piece worth sitting with. In small ancient communities, breakups and betrayals had social consequences that don't really exist in the same way now. If you mistreated a partner, the entire tribe knew, and that knowledge affected your standing, your access to resources, your future relationships. Today, you can ghost someone you matched with last week and never see a single social consequence. Anthropologists studying social accountability in small-scale societies have repeatedly noted that tight community oversight functioned as a kind of built-in relationship insurance. It didn't make people behave perfectly, but it made bad behavior expensive in a way that quietly disappeared the moment dating became anonymous and disconnected from any shared community. So what does all this actually mean for you, sitting here in a world of infinite swiping and zero accountability? It means the instincts you have are ancient. The part of you that wants to actually watch how someone treats a waiter or a friend or a child before deciding they're worth trusting, that instinct is tens of thousands of years old. It's not old-fashioned, it's literally the original operating system for how humans figured out who was safe to build a life with. Modern dating culture didn't upgrade that system. It mostly just bypassed it, replacing months of observed character with seconds of curated photos. And it means something else too. The reason early-stage modern dating often feels so unstable isn't because you're doing it wrong. It's because you're missing the thing that made the ancient system work in the first place, a community that actually knows the person you're dating. Our ancestors never had to take someone's word for who they were. They had witnesses. You, in most modern dating situations, have none. You're often the only person evaluating a stranger's character, with no tribe, no shared history, and no built-in accountability to lean on. This doesn't mean you need to go live in a hunter-gatherer band to find love, obviously, but it does suggest something practical and a little uncomfortable. The healthiest relationships, even now, tend to recreate pieces of that ancient structure without people realizing it. Shared friend groups who can vouch for someone, time spent together across different situations, not just curated dates, watching how someone behaves under small stress, not just how they perform when they know they're being watched. These aren't dating tips invented by a podcast. They're echoes of a survival strategy that worked for most of human history because it had to. The ancient system wasn't romantic by accident. It was romantic because it was practical, and somewhere along the way, modern dating culture decided practicality and romance couldn't coexist. Our ancestors never made that mistake. They needed both, at the exact same time, just to survive. And maybe the reason their relationships often lasted in conditions far harsher than anything you'll face this week is that they never separated the two things we keep trying to separate now. They looked for someone good to love and someone good to build a life with, and they understood correctly that those were never two different questions in the first place. If this got you thinking differently about something today, that's exactly what this channel is for. Hit subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, and take a look at the videos on screen right now. There's a good chance one of them is exactly what you need to watch next. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one.